Pre-algebra lesson 15, fractions and decimals. We're going to learn how to write fractions as decimals. We're going to learn how to write decimals as fractions. And then the last thing we'll be going over is how to round repeating decimal numbers. All right, let's get started with writing fractions as decimals. So I've got some example problems here for us. We have to write each fraction as a decimal. The first fraction is 3/8, the second one 1/30th. And if you remember the thing that I keep saying in class, which is that fractions are the same as division, I can quickly turn these into a decimal. And this should have been something that we did last year. Now, when we turn a fraction into a decimal, remember the numerator is always the number that ends up in the house. So I'm going to have 3 divided by 8. Now I know 8 is not going to go into 3 evenly, so I'm going to go ahead and add a decimal number and then put some zeros in there. I might need more than 2, but I always like to start off with 2. Maybe I'll only need 1. We'll see. But I'm going to divide 8 into 3.00. Okay? So 8 will not go into 3, we know, so we put 0. Okay? So we have 0. We bring our decimal point up to the top. Can 8 go into 30? Yes, it can. It will go in 3 times, in fact. 3 times 8 would give me 24. Subtract, and I have 6. I bring down the 0. 8 goes into 60. Let's see here. I know 8 times 5 is 40. So if I've got 5, and then let's zoom out here. So if I've got 5, 8 times 5 is 40. I need to get up to 60. 48 would be 6, and then 48 plus 8 is 57. No, 56. Yep, 48 plus 8 is 56. That gives me 7 times. 56 plus 8 would be 64, which is too big for 60, so 7 times. All right, so that's one way to help you out with division if you're still struggling. So then I've got 7. 7 times 8 is 56. We can subtract. We've got 4 left over. Oh, I didn't have enough zeros. I'll add another 0. Hey, 40. I know 8 goes into 45 times. 5 times 8 is 40. And I've got my answer. My answer is 375 thousandths. So that is going to be equal to 375 thousandths. Now let's talk about B, 1/30. Well, same process here. We'll switch. Yeah, we'll keep doing orange. All right, so I'm going to take the top number, which is the smaller number, 1. Well, it's not always going to be a small number, but the top number. Put it in there. I'm going to divide it by 30. 30 will not go into 1. And, wow, 30 won't even go into 10. So that's 2 zeros in a row. That's odd. How many times will 30 go into 100? Hey, 3 times, because 30, 60, 90. Right? 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 3 is 90. Subtract, and I've got 0 and 10. I need to add another 0. I bring that down, and I've got 100. I just did that. Okay, that's fine. I know it goes in 3 times. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 3 is 90. Subtract, I've got 10. I need to add another 0. Bring it down. I've got 100 again. Alright, so hopefully by now you guys are realizing, hey, this is going to repeat because I will see that 3 goes into 90 and then 10. And this process will never end. I'm actually stuck in a loop where it's an infinitely repeating number. So what happens on infinitely repeating numbers is there's 2 things you can do. I'm done finding the answer. I know what the answer is. It's read as 0.03 repeating or 3/100ths repeating. So I can write it one of 2 ways. I can either write 0.0333 and then put ... showing that the numbers repeat, or my preferred method is I can just write 0.03 and then put a line over the number or numbers that repeat. So since 3 is the only number that repeats, that's the only number I put the line over. Could you have 2 numbers repeat? Yeah, you could have a pattern that goes 25, 25, 25. If you see that you have the same 2 numbers repeating, you put the line over those 2 numbers. And sometimes you'll even have 3 numbers that repeat. So if you see 3 numbers that are repeating, you put a line over all 3 of those numbers. But either one of these will be our final answer for B. Okay? That's how we write each fraction as a decimal. Now, let's go to some problems where we write decimals as fractions. Ta-da! New problem. Okay. So now we have the decimal number 35 hundredths. I need to write this as a fraction. Well, the cool thing about writing decimals as fractions is if we know how to read our decimals properly, and we read this as 35 hundredths and not as 0.35, we already know what it is as a fraction because I've just said it. If I write the words 35 hundredths as a fraction, That's just 35 over 100. Or the other way you can remember it is you take the number to the right of the decimal point, 35. That will always be your numerator. The denominator will always be the last decimal place. So I have ones, tenths, and hundredths. So number over decimal place. Now, is this reduced? No, I can reduce this. I can divide both of these by 5. So let's go ahead and do that. Division seems to be orange today. So let's divide both of these by 5. 35 divided by 5 is 7. 100 divided by 5 is 20, because I know there's 20 nickels in a dollar. And 7 is a prime number, so these are reduced. So 0.35 or 35 hundredths is equal to 7 20ths. All right, next one. So let's go ahead and use that fraction rule. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the number to the right of the decimal and make that my numerator. Switch back to blue. So my numerator is going to be 41, not 041, just 41, right? And then I count my decimal place. So I've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So my denominator is now 1,000, 41 thousandths. And if I try to divide this, I can't, because I'm thinking about the number 41. It's not divisible by 2. 4 plus 1 is 5, so it's not divisible by 3, because 5 is not divisible by 3. It doesn't end in 5 or 0, so it's not divisible by 5, not divisible by 10, because it doesn't end in 0. 7 won't go into 41, because 7 goes into 42. Yeah, that's it. So 41 is a prime number, which means my final answer is 41 over 1,000. So that one was pretty simple. All right. So decimals to fractions can be pretty simple if we know how to reduce our fractions properly. All right, now the last thing we're going to do in this lesson is how to round repeating decimal numbers. So like I said, if we have repeating decimal numbers, we just signify that by putting a line over them. So let's talk about how to properly round those. For example, this problem says we need to round 4 and 613 thousandths repeating to the millions place. So the repeating digits here are going to be 613. So what this number actually is, even though it's not written out that way, is 4.613613. So let's go ahead and write it out, and that will help us round it. So if this number actually looks like that, let's write it that way. It's 613, 613, 613, and then it repeats, right? Now, where's the millionth place? Let's count it out. I've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000s, 100,000s, millionths. Great. So I know what place I'm rounding to. I'm rounding to the 6th decimal place. Remember, if I'm rounding here, I look at the number immediately to the right. That's 5 or above, so this number goes up to 4. Everything else gets cut off. So the answer is going to be, oh, maybe I should have done that in a different color. Let's make it red. I think that's what I used in that video, red, to look at that number. So my final answer, I know, will be 4.61361, and that goes up to 4. Everything else gets cut off, and that would be my final answer right there. Great, let's do one more. So now we have round 1.416 thousandths, 16 repeating, to 5 decimal places. All right. Now notice I only said 16 repeating. 16 is the only number that repeats. It's not the 4, because the 4 does not have the line over it. So what this will turn into is 1.4161616, etc. Now if I have to round to 5 decimal places, that means I have to write 6 decimal places. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the decimal place I'm going to round to, which means I look at the space immediately to the right. That is 4 below, so it stays the same. So this gets cut off, and my final answer is going to be 1.41616. So 41,616 hundred thousandths. And that's my answer. All right. Well, that's all there is for this lesson. If you have any questions, let me know on the website, and I will see you in the next video.